Why? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. I am Ursula, and I am a self care advocate, self care fanatic, self love, everything. And I'm also about healing. So, before we have our guest come on, just wanted to go over a few notes. And first, if you hear my voice, I definitely want you to please subscribe to my podcast, which is Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. And it's Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together on all social media. Also, I want to give a shout out once again to my 413 family. I'm still trying to figure out the settings, but I cannot see the post. But when they do come on, I see it after the show, and I'm so very grateful. And if you are watching this on a replay, if you can type replay in the comments so I'll know. But I also definitely want you all to subscribe once again because and download the podcast. It's on all streaming avenues. It really helps podcasters. It took me to become a podcaster to understand. And I like to talk, so it's okay to come on in and talk to me. So we have a lot of people already coming in. So right now I'm going to introduce my beautiful guest. You can hold, please. And
Hello.
there she is. Hi, beautiful.
Hi, that's me.
Hey, Cerita. So everyone, this is Cerita Ibrahim. I'm going to read her bio. Also, Cerita was on last week. And Cerita, while I get your bio, I also would like for you to do a recap on what we talked about last week, just to catch everybody up to date on what we talked about. Today's topic is generational trauma. So here we go. So just to
Well,
let you know,
you see how she done threw it at me. She didn't even tell me she was giving me homework. But you know what I'm saying? Luckily, I'm smart because then I remember a few things. So,
well, let me read your bio first, okay? Real quick. So Cerita Ibrahim is a therapist and a trauma survivor turned guide, a beautiful guide at that. She helps Black women navigate the journey of healing through trauma by practicing self therapy to increase integrity, self love, and self trust. Healing is a spiritual process that doesn't have to be complicated. It's just knowing yourself and who you are not is the foundation of all your relationships, including the one that you have with God. You really are the center of your universe and you can rule with love. Always so well said.
hey now, hey now.
So, yeah, just a little recap. It won't have to be exactly what we talked about because to me, not to downplay it, but trauma is trauma. It's still horrific. But if you could just explain different types of trauma, of generational trauma. I remember we talked about environmental.
hmm hmm We talked about a wide range of topics. If my memory serves me correctly, we talked about how trauma, how we have cycles of trauma through repetition compulsion, and how people who experience trauma are really driven to attract those same circumstances in the same context and environment that they experience, especially as children. We also talked about different types of trauma, capital T trauma, which is sexual abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, physical abuse, abandonment, natural disasters, like those kinds of things we know um, heavily impact survivors, which means that their trauma response, um, it could show up as more severe dysfunction, or what we know as PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, we also talked about um, parenting, how trauma shows up in parenting. in
Yes.
terms of how you communicate, shutting a child down consistently over time, denying the reality, denying their experience, denying their truth, can cause them to grow up to be individuals who are insecure, especially in their personal relationships. They will often question themselves and question reality and tend to lean on others for validation, for support, which can look like codependence. Um,
Mm.
we also talked about, you see, I'm thinking now.
Well, while you
Um,
think,
go
I
ahead.
like what you said about the parenting part. So
Hmm.
let me tell you what I did a couple days ago. I was bored at work. So I went, hey Keisha. So I went on YouTube and I was watching Ilyana Fix My Life.
Mm,
And anybody who's listening right now, please, right now, I want you to go to the whole therapist and I want you to like her page.
oh,
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
it's all about helping each other for sure. Like her page, and I definitely want you to, if you have questions or comments, please just come on in. We don't bite. It's okay to ask us questions and talk. And also share this page or create a watch party. That's all I'm asking. We always give you options. So Sarita, like I said, I was bored at work and I was watching Ilyana Fix My Life, and it had this family. It was a strong superwoman.
Mm,
Oh, thank you, Keisha, for sharing. And it was a strong, hear me roar, black woman. Her and she had three kids, adult kids, and they had thriving lives. But the sons were withdrawn. They were outgoing, but emotionally withdrawn. And then the daughter just lashed out. It was horrible. And then the mother, she lashed out. So these are grown men and they were scared of their mom. And she's a 60 something year old woman and they're still scared of her and they're in their 30s and early 40s because they are thinking how it was when they were younger, how the mother would lash out. So for them to even tell their mama a situation or how they felt, she would shut them down. You'll be all right. You're fine. Oh, you want to cry? You want to show some emotions? Don't be no punk at. Okay. So
hmm.
now they're thinking they're okay and they're fine. But once Ilyana started peeling back the onion, come to find out, the one of the sons, he ended up becoming emotionally detached towards his wife. And now they are on the brink of divorce. They're literally holding on by a thread. You see? And then the other son, he just shut down totally, completely. And then the daughter, as we know, she just a loose cannon. But it's funny because now as adults, they thought that they were fine. And the mom, when they finally confronted her about it, and she said, I just didn't know how. And she was lashing out because the father had left for whatever reason. He wasn't around. He was active, but he wasn't around. So to say all of that, when people say they're fine, it shows up in different ways. So what's your opinion on that? I know it's heavy. It's heavy.
um, so, what we know in terms of trauma research is that the way that human beings cope with traumatic situations, um, it, they often numb out or disassociate. So, which means that I will literally, I cut myself off from myself so that I can cope, I can survive. So if I can't feel the pain, if I don't connect with the pain, if I'm not truly aware of what I'm experiencing, and that's one thing we did talk about on the first show. I talked about my own experience with numbing out, then I can keep going. I can keep it moving. Then
Yeah.
I'm not broke down and overwhelmed by these feelings of what I've experienced or what has happened to me. So when you say, um, they said that they thought that they were fine, I know that that's true. Like I've experienced that and I've seen it so many times in my
Oh.
clients. And when you experience this kind of aggressive, demeaning, rageful energy from a parent, it can certainly change the way you think about yourself. And your trigger might be to, especially as a child, right? My trigger might be to numb out and then do what I can to please mom and then appease mom and to be the good child. And over time, what happens is you put on more and more mask. So if I'm treated in a way where I am demeaned, where I am denied, where my own humanity is ignored, meaning my thoughts, my perceptions, my feelings, my thinking, it can create a lot of feelings, including toxic shame. And with toxic
Mm.
shame, it goes much deeper than just the normal human healthy shame. Toxic shame means that I am defective, that I am bad. And if a parent is treating a child in such a way, where they're treating them like as if they are bad, that becomes of how they see themselves and how they operate. But if I'm feeling shame about what I'm experiencing, that's hard. That's devastating. So I'm gonna just numb that out and I'm gonna protect myself through various ways. I'm gonna put on the mask.
How does that mask look when you said various ways? What
Oh,
have you seen?
so first we there's layers to this shit. You know what I'm saying? We talk about layers, it's layers. So the first what we call defense or self-protection can be what we call ego defenses. So your defenses, your walls. Everyone knows what it means to have walls, right? So that may be denial. It may be projection. So instead of me taking responsibility for my feelings and feeling bad, then I make everyone else bad. I'll talk. You're upset. You did this thing, or you're full of shame. You're angry. So you put it onto someone else, so you don't have to take any responsibility for it. It
Wow.
might be repression. I'm just going to repress how I feel. And if I am showing up, really, what I can say, as a therapist and as a human being, it's so authentic and it's so painful for a human being to feel these painful feelings and then have to deny them, which means I'm lying to myself. How am I going to show up in the world? That means I got to put on more mask, and
Oh,
it will look like it will show up as behavioral. So I might be the perfectionist. I might be a super achiever. So I'm trying to compensate for how I really feel inside by doing, getting, striving. Some people may compensate by becoming an addict. So I'm going to numb out. And now I'm known as, or now I see myself as this defective, this addict. And you're constantly numbing out with a substance. You can numb out with anything. I mean, that's the human way. Like I'm all
right.
right. But we have things in our culture that are acceptable ways for you to numb out, for you to become distracted, for you to get involved in. Like the workaholic is not shamed like the, drug addict. You know what I'm saying? Even though
Right.
they're doing the same thing,
So it's
they
more
have the same defense, the same cover.
a
But
lot
if you
more
working to make
so
money,
a
don't
lot
matter
more.
if you ain't there for your kids. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. And it doesn't look as it's more socially accepted. I see.
And so they may not, or let me back up. A person who is encouraged and has socially accepted ways of dealing with their trauma or their pain, it will be harder for them to actually get to the core of what's wrong
Why?
because it's being enforced, like their behaviors. And when you talk about these young men who, is on the brink of divorce, it makes sense because if I cut myself off from myself, I'm not going to turn it back on just for my wife, just so I can have conversations with you. It doesn't work that way because what happens with the ways that we defend ourselves against pain, it becomes automatic. And that's why we talk so much about childhood, why I talk so much about childhood and other therapists, because if you've learned how to deal in childhood with painful things by not feeling, then and it works. Just
Yeah.
like if I took a hit of a drug and it numbs me out, it works. So if that works, you continue to do that unconsciously. because that is what keeps you safe. That's how you survive. So just like I know when I'm driving, I need to stop and I slam on the brakes. I've been driving for so long, I don't have to think, oh, wait, let me slam on the brakes. Oh, wait, let
Right.
me put on my turn signal. You don't have to think about those things because it's conditioned now. And you know what you need to do to keep yourself safe. You need to go faster, you automatically do it. Sometimes you get home and you done drove that way so much you don't even know, like, damn, how did I even get here?
Right.
But your defenses work the same way. So if you've cut already yourself off from how you really feel, and emotions are very important for healthy relationships. And that's why trauma shows up in relationships because it impacts our ability to relate to others.
Wow. And, talking about that video, it makes me wonder how that couple who they're on the brink of divorce, how their relationship is with the kids, the grandkids.
Hmm. The grandkids.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. It can show up in many different ways. Some people who, um, numb out, or, I'm fine. I might feel that my role is to be the provider. So, making sure you have things, making sure you eat, making sure you are taken care of in that way, because that's what I do for myself and that's what I know. But
Right.
to validate your emotional life and say, hey, do you need to talk about it? How are you processing your feeling and what's going on? And what do you think about that? And talking about being more confident from an inner standpoint instead of what you are doing. Like being confident, being loving, being seen and heard is different than performing and, because you got a trophy, you should feel good. So I think that in general, it absolutely can impact how you parent because you can only give what you have.
Right. Ooh, I remember watching a video clip of TD Jakes, who's talking to Oprah, and it talked about how to forgive, because when you have a parent, I'm just throwing out a number, I can't remember. You have enough uh emotional, like the love, to the capacity for 10 gallons of love, but your parent only had 10 milliliters. And then you're empty, you feel stuck, you're just waiting for something that never hasn't happened. That hits me in the chest. It's hitting you in the chest too, sis. I see, it's sad. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we are born like with this unlimited capacity to love. You look at any child, they're so open and playful and forgiving,
Yeah.
especially when they have a healthy or somewhat healthy environment. In
Yeah.
psychology, we call it the good enough parent. Like there's no such thing as perfect, but we know like there's a threshold, okay? So when you are the good enough parent, when you are meeting the child's needs, it allows them to blossom to the fullness of their human capacity.
Yeah.
So that ability to love and connect and to trust, that is, you learn to trust in the first 2 years of life. I think I did mention that on the first show. So attachment is very important. Doesn't mean that if you have, parents who weren't able to meet your needs, that you'll never be able to, have healthy relationships. That's not the case.
Mm.
But to understand that, um, the capacity that you have can be encouraged or discouraged depending on your parents' capacity to encourage and to receive and to stand and be in all that love. Because that could
Mm.
be for a parent who has trauma or who is dysfunctional, that could be very challenging for them. All of the closeness, all of the, the attention that a child requires. If they were never given it, they ain't gonna know how to give it. They're not going to know how to be in that space if they don't have healing. They're not going to know how to allow the affection and the playfulness, because that's the first thing we cut ourselves off from when we cut ourselves off from ourselves, is the inner child, the hurt child. And that's the playful part. That's the creative part. So, you not like running around here emotionless, but then you're like, oh, child, come over here. Let's play. Let's make believe and dress up, and you could put makeup on my face. That's not going to happen. It's not going to
Right.
happen.
So I just thought about this. What about you have siblings? What if they grew up in the same house and is it possible for one to experience generational trauma and the other one not?
Well, luckily, I do have some answer for that.
Well,
They,
let's hear it, sis.
the way that science right now studies nature versus nurture is through twin studies. And so we do know that, two people who can grow up in the same environment, they can have a different experience, of
Mm-hmm.
course, because a large part of the experience is how you interpret the experience.
What do
So
you mean
if
by that?
you said, what do I mean by that?
Yeah, but how they interpret the experience.
Well, I'm sorry, I hit the camera.
Mm-hmm.
So interpret everything when you think about the world that we live in, right? This socially constructed world, because everything besides nature is something human beings that we done came up with this. We done did this. So
Right.
when you think about the world, how you experience everything is based on your interpretation, your internal beliefs, your perceptions, your thoughts, your past experiences. And we see that right now going on, like with the election and with the country and with politics, where people have completely different beliefs and thoughts about the same thing. And it's no different as, people growing up in a household. So if one child looks at like, for example, you have two children, but one child feels that the other is the favorite. From that belief, they're going to look at the interactions with the parents, the things that the parents say, and they will internalize it very differently than if I felt I was the favorite child, even though we had the same parents, same experiences. And even if that is not the case, even if the parents didn't have a favorite child, but if I believe that maybe because this child is the other child maybe get better grades, or maybe they have a certain talent, and I may be insecure, intimidated, or have some kind of feelings about that, and will believe that what I'm seeing is based on, the parents love the child better, or anything that a person or a child can make up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, would that be considered their distorted truth, their distorted reality?
Well, we would call that distorted thinking. That is actually what it's called when we have thoughts and beliefs that are not accurate, and they are absolutely impacting how we interpret the world. So
Huh.
if I have come to believe that, I am defective, or I'm a failure, or because I'm Black, that I'm less than, we call that like internalized racism. So I've interpreted all of the whiteness that I experience in the world as if this is better. And so now I feel like there's something defective and wrong about me. And that's going to show up in how I interact, the kind of mate that I choose, the kind of career that I go after, because I'm actively trying to fight against the very beliefs that I'm choosing to hold on to. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow. Ooh, that's heavy. So, how does one they want to heal. They've had enough of enough. They're tired of being tired. They want to be healed. They don't know how. Here comes the part 2 of this. How would someone, like, what would be the first step that someone can do? Well, I'm not a therapist, but
You just play one on
I
TV.
just play one on. Let me know. I'm thinking one of the first steps would be to learn how to validate oneself. I really believe the nucleus of everything comes from within. I'm not sure everybody would have different tools. What now what does the professional say?
So healing from trauma is a process. I mean,
Yeah.
no one just got traumatized. It's just the I was going to say no one got traumatized overnight, but you can be traumatized overnight,
Yeah.
depending on the experience. But what happens, and that is, and we can go into that later, but that is because of what the way that your brain shuts down parts of yourself when you experience trauma. So the language center, the emotional center, so you don't store trauma memories like normal memories, which is why they keep coming up in this. They're like interfering with your life because they haven't been processed. But so let me say that
Oh.
healing from it is a process because it impacts your brain, as I just explained a piece of that, and your body. So when I talked about like numbing out, when you numb out and disassociate, you're leaving your body, which you can. And we have heard many stories where people who were in severely traumatic situations where they're like, I just left my body. I was like watching myself from up here. And you know what I'm saying? So the first step, the first step, and I think with anything is to be willing to admit that you need help, that there is something going on within you that
Mm.
in your current state of being, you are powerless to control.
Mm.
And I think that is because you don't really we don't now, like science we understand, but the person in the experience doesn't understand everything that is going on in their mind and their body because you have a large part of your mind that is unconscious. So there are ways that you've been dealing and you've been coping that you're not even consciously aware of, and usually those things end up being dysfunctional in our life because we're not conscious of it. So having
Right.
that willingness first to understand that there is a problem. The problem is not you, but that you have a problem. That's
Oh,
different because you're not defective. There's just an opportunity to heal some things that are unresolved, unaddressed, and unacknowledged.
right.
And the second part I would say is, of course, to have a willingness to be honest. And the
Mhm.
third, I would say, and this is just off the top of my head, if I had to put it in some kind of steps, is to be willing to release the self blame and the self judgment about it.
Yes. Wow. And I see how people can become stuck. They're stuck in that contemplation phase of, I want to get help, I don't. It, it could take weeks, months, decades. And some people die in that stuck state. Oh, it's just so heartbreaking.
But
And that's a big step to admit I have a problem. I'm emotionally detached. I am having emotional outbursts and rage on people. That's heavy. That's heavy.
it is heavy. But what's heavier is a human being's ability to protect themselves and unconsciously preserve that same behavior that is causing problems. So that's why our mind is so powerful and so amazing, but it certainly can be used against our best interest. Because that person who is going off on people, who's raging, they justify that by, well, you shouldn't have. Well, this happened. Well, you did this. And it becomes about the thing in the situation versus taking responsibility for
Yeah.
one's actions. And that is where I think that the what why I said that there has to be an acknowledgement that something isn't working. Because it's too
Mm,
easy to make up reasons and to make up bullshit because we do it often as human beings. We would just make some up in a
right.
minute, real quick.
Very quick. It is easier to have projection than looking within. Woo.
Yes. And really that's how we see ourselves, is through the eyes and interactions of other people. Like, I've learned a lot about myself from my interactions in my relationships. And
What do you
sometimes it can
mean?
take us a minute to see, like, wait, I notice a pattern here with me.
Mm,
Like, I'm being triggered, let's say, because, people, we understand that. So for example, have a if I have a, like, unpredictable, tumultuous relationship with my mom, she could just say something in a particular tone, and then that could trigger me to a certain feeling, which what is really happening is the little girl in me, the hurt part of me that was never addressed, is being activated. So it's a reminder, because maybe in the past that tone meant something else. And
yeah.
so, being willing, it's really all about self-awareness. And self-awareness comes from a willingness to practice some kind of self-development and self-help. And that can certainly start with some kind of therapy or
Mm,
counseling with a trauma-informed counselor, someone who understands trauma and how it impacts you and how it impacts your life. Someone who is going to validate your experience. And that's why we see
mm,
that Black therapists have better outcomes with Black clients, because we don't have to, I don't have to first go through the explanation of explaining certain things in my world and certain things I experience, and then
yeah.
having it denied. Denial of a person's experience, no matter what it is, can be detrimental to their healing, because the most of us are hurt because we weren't seen, heard, and respected.
You know what I learned in therapy? This is my own personal experience. So I was tell people about a family member, and oh well, that's how they are. It's okay. It's just leave them alone. And not only was the initial family member gaslighting me, now I'm having secondary gaslighting from family members and friends, and talk to another person. I don't know if there's such thing as a tertiary gaslight. It never ended. So the validation was never there, which would keep me stuck.
What it will keep you stuck if you are not willing to stand in the truth. Because when you have a family system who has gotten by, or who has survived some kind of dysfunctional trauma, they have coping skills, which are dysfunctional coping skills, like denial. So if
Mm-hmm.
the whole family is in denial about one individual and their badass behavior, which does happen, because
Yeah.
the family unit is using tactics, like we did discuss this on the first podcast, that are very shame based. So if you try to pull, you trying to just, pull the covers back, like, listen, all the curtains, showing all the stuff and telling the truth, everybody is going to be disoriented, because they've worked so hard to maintain this false reality, and
Yeah.
you want to come in kicking down walls. They're going to push back, and they're going to try to, and I mean, we see this in families, particularly with, I've seen it when I work with kids in a psychiatric hospital. That's why we have such a thing as a scapegoat. So instead of the person who actually is causing the problem being the problem, no, it's the kid or it's the person who wants to tell the truth that is a problem. You're rocking this boat. I don't understand why you just won't, go along to get along. I don't know why
Mm.
this is just the way the person is. It's like they want to you to conform to their version, or their version of reality that has allowed them to keep on keeping on.
When it's just all toxic dysfunction, how does that is it just blows my mind. And just thinking about it, we are all living this family, the Jackson family is a toxic family, and then there's one person who would be like the whistleblower, so to speak.
Mm.
And you're right, they're Now they are the troublemaker,
the scapegoat. So
the
they become the problem.
scapegoat.
But the thing is that usually for people in those situations, it's not always easy. So they may try to get attention, and we've seen it by acting out, by becoming the rebel. And that's going to show up in their relationships and how they relate to people later on, because it's like, I'm going to do what I can to get you to see me. I'm going to cause problems because you're not. And so, we human beings, we have a lot of ways that we deal, or we try to deal, but it can be very toxic for the child, because it's like, do I do what my parents say? Do When I know that they're not really telling the truth completely. And
Mm,
if I do what they say and fall in line, I'll get along with them easier. I might get more of what I want. I will be rewarded for taking on the dysfunctional ways. Or do I risk being the outcast? Do I
right.
risk being disconnected? And sometimes, people aren't willing to risk that.
Because it's heavy. That's a lot. So, what are other ways people can heal from generational trauma, or the next step?
So, I mentioned, of course, some kind of therapy. There are support groups for various types of trauma, the various types of experiences.
Hmm.
We know that for people who have had parents who were addicts, it's traumatizing, and they have a support group. So connecting with other people who share your same experiences can be validating, and it can bring a lot of self-awareness. I would also say that you have to be willing to cut people off. Just like a drug addict. Like, if I'm clean, I can't go back to my same hood. I
Right.
can't go back to the same people I was hanging out with that I used to use with. Like,
Right.
that ain't gonna work. So being willing to set boundaries, but also making your mental health a priority.
Yeah.
And that does require, it's a lot, and it can be hard. But the thing is that, Yana says this all the time, like, your emotions can't kill you. Like, we run so hard from our emotions,
I get it.
hard,
Yeah.
and they can't kill us. It hurts, but the pain don't last forever. Like, if the pain lasted forever, nobody would have more than one child. You'd be like, listen, I can't, I just can't do it, baby, because, and I know because I had one and I was like, why do people have more kids? But now I remember the pain, but I don't remember the pain. You know what I'm saying? So maybe I could have risked it again. I don't know. But when you process your own emotions, or let me say, because some people have, like, I get questions like, how long does it take you to heal? And
Yeah.
that depends on you. It depends on what you've been through, and it depends on how ready you are to look at your stuff. It's,
Right.
it's all depends on you.
And
But
the
I
work
think,
you put into it. That's like someone saying, well, I want to lose weight. But you know what? Day one of my diet, I'm going to eat a bunch of salad and spinach and greens, but I'm also going to have this 15 million piece nugget. I'm going to jog for about 10 minutes, but I'm going to eat this candy bar, the whole box that I got from Sam's. But I want to lose weight, and I want to lose 80 pounds by yesterday. So you
that's
get,
exactly,
yeah, you get what you put into it. So
that's
how
exactly
bad
it.
you want it.
That's exactly it. I mean, when you healing, from my perspective, is really peeling back the layers of protection, because all we're really doing is getting to the hurt parts of us. But in order to survive, we got so many ways of not feeling hurt, of not being hurt, of not connecting with ourselves. And that's why I said in the beginning, that's what trauma does. Like, you disown yourself from yourself. But the
Oh,
more and more layers you put on, you become less and less authentic to who you really are.
can you repeat that again?
Which
The
part?
first part about being, I mean, you just dropping so many. Oh my God. about
What
not
that
being.
trauma caused you to it causes you to disown yourself from yourself.
May I
You
borrow
dis
that?
you sure can. You sure can. I'm sure I read it in the book somewhere. I just don't remember where. But
That's
um,
deep.
but yes, I mean, and I know that because the work that I do, the therapy and this is another thing when I talked about, you talk about like what to do. The therapy that I teach and that I've used myself, um, the basis is that you have the parts of your mind, you have protective parts that are responsible for keeping you safe, keeping the status quo, and you have wounded parts. And the job of the protector is to keep the wounded parts from actually coming to the surface. Like they try to manage your life and keep you controlled so that you don't feel. And so
Ooh.
you really are literally disconnecting parts of yourself from yourself. It's like this is the way that you protect yourself. But then you also have your real self, your authentic self, your higher self, your God self, whatever label you want to put on it. And that aspect of you cannot be hurt, cannot be traumatized. But the more we protect ourselves and the more hurt that we've been, it's not safe to be you. It's not
Ooh.
safe to be your real life. It's not safe to be loving and caring. If the world has shown you that, especially your world is your parents when you're a kid or your caregivers. If they don't show you love, then damn sure it's not safe. It's not safe to know love and express love and be loved in the way that I was vulnerable
Mm.
in the past. So you're putting on layers and layers and layers of protection of the real you, the hurt you, the vulnerable parts of you, the caring, the creative, the playful aspects of you. It's not safe. And so it's like the healing in its various ways because there's lots of there's different therapies, there's different approaches to healing, but they all reconnect you to your own center so that you become this secure base from which you live, from which you stand. You
Wow.
become that because we talk about like attachment figures. Like when you're a child, your attachment figure is your caregiver. You look to them for your safety and your security and your joy and getting all your needs met. And if they're not meeting your needs, you go through life as if your needs are not being met. But that's because you are not standing in the space where you are allowing yourself to become that attachment figure and you meet your own needs, where you give yourself that love and that attention and that encouragement and that
Mm.
support and that unconditional love. But it takes
Mm.
a process for you, for most of us, to unlearn all the things and all the ways that we've blocked ourselves off from that because we're hurt.
Mm. So, from your perspective as a therapist, what are ways that you talk to your clients to give them that safe space?
Well, I am a teacher and I love teaching because I think that, knowing is half the battle, baby. I
Yes,
think
ma'am.
I think that when you really understand certain aspects about yourself and your mind, then you feel more innocent, which means that I can release the blame. Like, why did I do this? Why didn't I do that? Something is wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm defective. But when you understand your natural survival reactions to these experiences are the reasons why you might be angry or full of rage or disconnected or not have emotions or you numb out or you emotional eat or you might use drugs, whatever it is. We're all using different mechanisms in order to avoid really getting to our true self, but it just looks different out in the world.
Wow.
Does that
Woo.
make sense? So
Yes.
the narcissist and the codependent, they have the same basic issues at the core, and they're trying to get their needs met because a narcissist grows up in a shaming environment. They grew up in an environment where they didn't get their needs met, where they weren't experiencing healthy love and connection. They may have been abuse. Like I said, shaming rules. Don't talk about it. Don't say nothing about what's going on in this house. They may be belittled, you know? And so the experience of being diminished in that way, the way my mask will look is that I put on the mask of superiority.
Oh,
The codependent will put on the mask of, well, I'll take care of you. I'm the superwoman. I get love. I feel better about myself and what I've experienced because I'm helping and I'm giving to other people. But at the core of what is going on, the trauma or the dysfunction that they experience is the same. They have hurt little boys and girls that were never really treated like the full human beings that they are. Does that make
mm.
sense?
Yes, that hit me in the chest. It makes a lot of sense. Hmm.
Because people with the whole narcissist thing, I know is difficult, but when you think about it, why else would someone have such a strong need to control others, to manipulate others, to feel superior to others, if there wasn't something going on within them? What need would you have? Wouldn't you just be happy minding your business, doing your thing?
Right. Instead of the manipulation.
But people learn to get their needs met in the way that works for them based on that situation.
So, if I may interrupt, first of all, this is everyone's chance to go ahead and like and follow the whole therapist page as well as Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together.
Yes, like
Yeah,
it.
like, and not only that, go ahead and visit her website. There
And
is, hmm,
I was just going to say, I really encourage anyone to have questions, ask right now, because this is
exactly.
an open, safe space, and we're all learning this together. And I know you got some questions.
I know. I will tell you this, Elise LaShawn Marshall, she has a comment and it's wow. Like literally, and I don't have my glasses on and I can see all the W's and O's. Elise, girl, Elise, I know, girl. This, Elise, if this hit you in your chest, type it has hit me in the chest. Because ooh, Sarita, you are dropping some gems. And a city on a hill, I know her. She said, your perception changes everything.
Your perception is reality. And that's why we have to do reality checks, because your perception, it can fuel you or
Mm,
it can poison you. Yep,
mm.
it really can. Your perception that is our superpower, that we get to choose that. And if you're not choosing intentionally, you're choosing by default, which means it's going to be based on the past and probably going to be based on some bullshit. I'm just saying.
Whoa, that hit me in the chest again. Elise said, or she has a question, which trauma do you pick to heal from?
Um, that's a good question. I think it will depend on the method, like what it is that you are using, if you're going to therapy, if you're reading books, because at the end of the day, it really is not about the specific trauma. It's about you. It's about you
How?
healing because if I'm talking about, well, I want to deal with this trauma of this thing, what you're really talking about is, I want to deal with the pain that is within me that was caused by this thing. I want to deal with the hurt that is in me that was caused by this thing. I want to
Yeah.
deal with my own disconnection and my own feeling of loss or abandonment or worthlessness or whatever it is. Because really, truthfully, I was about to say that all forgiveness is self forgiveness, but I was getting my head of myself. Is that when you are looking at dealing with a specific thing, that can take you out of the idea of dealing with you, because that thing happened in the past. But
Mm-hmm.
what the experience of that thing that happened is in you. Does that make sense?
It has to marinate a little bit. Say that one more time.
The thing that happened in the past, and it could be, very painful, it could be traumatic. what the healing is about is what is in you now, that is in you as a result of the thing that happened in the past. You
Oh,
understand what I'm saying? So all
yeah,
roads lead back to you.
yeah, yes, I get it. Mm,
So you can I would say that there's an opportunity to decide what it is that you are noticing or you are aware of or that you're experiencing that
yeah.
you can deal with. Because if you keep it focused on you, because that's what it's all about, it's about you,
Mm,
then you have such an intelligence that you'll know where to go from there. But it starts
yeah.
with you.
And you know what? That's where that high emotional intelligence comes from.
It does. It does. But I think too that that is developed. Like like you talk about that, but you develop that
I
through your
did.
process of self-awareness. And I think that is the goal of healing. That's one of the goals is increasing your emotional intelligence. Because
Mm,
when you have that, I'm not being ruled by my emotions. I understand that what I'm thinking is an interpretation, and then the emotions are actually showing up based on how I'm interpreting it, based on what I'm thinking and believing about whatever.
right. Oh, here's another question I just thought about. How can someone heal if the trauma never stops? Like the scare has
That's
never
now
built
that
up.
that is very difficult because you don't want to, and I hate to say this because I've, talked about this and looked at research with children who are in dysfunctional situations. You don't want to heal them. And the reason is when I say, let me say that, let me restate that because it's not that you don't want to heal them, but they have developed protective mechanisms so that they could survive in that situation. So if you get to the healing and you unravel all that and then they have to go back into that toxic environment, you are re-traumatizing them.
Mm,
Because like if my parent is physically abusive, but I can look at their voice, I can know, the look in their eyes, I can detect like what is going on and what they might do so I can protect myself. I can run, I can hide, I can change my voice, I can do whatever that a child might do to protect themselves in that environment. If you take those protective mechanisms away, and they're no longer they're opening themselves up for even more pain. Like that's why we have self-protection, so you can give them skills and tools to adapt or remove them completely from the trauma. But if you it's like being out in the world with no armor. You know
ooh,
what I'm saying? You
mm,
need some kind of armor. I mean, that's how we are designed, to have some kind of armor to deal in these types of situations.
right. Wow. So I invite everyone. We're going to start winding it down, Sarita. But before we go, I invite everyone to once again go on Sarita's website, and I am going to post it. It's thewholetherapist.co.co, because on her, this was really cool. Everyone, she has a link on there that says, I am the cure. Not many words, but it's so powerful because I love the part that you started with I am. And I'm actually going to do a show on I am, my I am affirmations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I love that, instantly got me and just made
Really?
my soul vibrate. I am the cure.
I mean, and that's really what it is. So the shameless
Woo.
plug before we end, I didn't
Oh,
even mention this on the first show, is that I have a program called You're the Cure, and
mm,
I work with Black women specifically to heal trauma. And of course, I teach the core therapy that will help you deal with trauma and to understand more about you, why you do the things you do, and to unravel what seems like the mystery of you, to get to the core authentic aspect of you. Because in healing, what happens truly is that you, the real you,
Yeah.
heals the parts of you that are wounded and dysfunctional. Like you're really doing the healing. The therapist or whoever is the guide or the coach or the person cheering you on or giving you advice or teaching, but it's really you.
Yeah.
You are doing the work and you have to show up because you're showing up for yourself with you. So I encourage you to go to my website and put your information and like sign up for the newsletter because I will be holding a masterclass next week. And this is what I'm all about is teaching, how to heal from trauma.
Yes. God bless you. Oh, send the link. Send wait. Uh Keisha, she said, send the link, send the link.
Hi. Hi, Keisha. I love you,
But
girl.
guess what? I love her more. You know why? Wait, you know what? I'll save that conversation for our after show if you have time.
Wait, she already done booked me for the after show, but she ain't tell me she was booking me. But that's okay. I'm gonna be on. I'm gonna do the after show. Don't worry about it.
I
I
may have
got
to
you.
invite Keisha on this one. I will. This will trigger you, Keisha. That story that I told everyone. Y'all have to tune in and go back in the past episode last week to see our after show. But what we talked about, what happened in the dorm room, Keisha was a part.
Oh, Keisha, the Valentine's. I know Keisha,
Say that again.
honey.
What'd you
I
say?
said, I know Keisha. I love you. Keisha down for the cause. I already know.
Yes. And then Elise said, thank you for the answer. I will follow you. I needed this. Praise God. See,
Thank you.
that's work. That's God's purpose and work right there. I have bumps on my arms. Elise, God bless you, sis. And you know what, Elise? Invite two of your closest friends, family members. Just, I always say this, we all have to be, it would be nice for us all to be the positive ripple effect. You see, our sister Sarita is the rock right now, and her ripple effect, positive. Oh my God.
Yes. That is amazingly inspiring. And I just want to say thank you because thank you to you too. But thank you, we it takes so much courage to be honest. You know what I'm saying with where we
Yes.
are. And it gives other people permission because we all be out here struggling in one way or the other. And
Right.
but we have this facade like everything has to be perfect and that is a trauma response. And so there's no shame in us coming together and holding a sacred space and being willing to tell the truth and make the truth be something that is innocent, that is real, that is coveted. And so I'm grateful for all of you who watch this
Yeah.
and who's willing to be the change because when we all showing up out here whole and in love, that really is how we change the world.
Oh, repeat that, sis. Repeat it again. I love that.
Let me see. When we all show up whole and complete and in love, that is how we change the world. How we show up
Mm.
in the world will be based on true authenticity and not trying to take or manipulate or control or be empowered over. We show up as we are, bringing all the love, honey, and
Yes.
none of the pain. And I think that's what it's about.
Yes. God made us all perfect. Or
Hmm.
whoever, whatever your divine being is. Oh,
Hmm.
Elisa. Oh,
What did she say?
I think I'm gonna cry. First of all, hello, Derek. It's my
Hey there.
mentor. Keisha said it takes courage to be truthful.
It does.
And with that being said, the next comment with Elise, she said, yes, I have tears. We as Black women judge so much, but you women are helping. I love it. Elise, we love you too, sis.
Yes.
Oh, God
I
is
love. See, that's
kind.
what I'm talking about. Yeah, you follow me or send me a DM because you the kind of person that I need to have in my group. You know what I'm saying? Because I
Yeah.
know that we are capable of not just magic but miracles. You know what I'm saying? And when we have that, we tap into our own divine nature, baby, honey. That's life right there.
It
That's everything.
really is. It's you're unstoppable.
Hmm.
You're brave. You're courageous. You're
Hmm.
loved. You navigate in a spirit of abundance and not
Hmm.
lack.
It's all true. And you can still make mistakes and not be
Yeah,
wronged for it and to be able to learn from it. You always have an opportunity to grow and to learn more
absolutely.
about yourself and life. I mean, that is what it means to be human. Not to be less than human, meaning you've never experienced anything bad, you've never done anything wrong,
Yeah.
everything is fine. That's not the reality for
No.
any human being.
Mm. Elise, God bless you. That took a lot of courage to put that your statement in the comments. That's beautiful. And piggybacking on what you said, Sarita, with all of that comes you can have a lot more grace with yourself,
Mm, mm,
right?
mm. So,
Mm.
in the you talk about healing, self kindness or self compassion is a requirement. Self kindness and self respect is a requirement for healing. It's
Yeah.
very, very difficult to heal the parts of you that have been hurt while simultaneously judging yourself. Like
Woo.
those two things don't go together. And that's why I talk about owning your innocence. Because when you can own your innocence and how you feel and what you've experienced, then you can show up more authentic to yourself and with yourself. That is a powerful part of healing.
That's deep. That is deep. I want you to plug some more. What else you have going on, sis? Plug. We need this. We need this ripple effect to keep
You
going
know,
on.
that I love you. That right now, that is the main thing that I'm focused on because I want to create a community of Black women where we are having this kind of conversation, this dialogue, and this level of awareness and how we show up within ourselves and our relationships and our children.
Right.
I certainly have some ideas for some classes and things to teach in the future, but I'm really creating now a community. Like that is my focus, and within that, oh, I have a lot of things planned for the ladies who join the community. So, yeah,
Yeah.
like because I know I can only spread myself, so many places in so many ways, but I am committed to showing up completely and authentically.
Yeah.
So, I'm just focusing on this one and it's not just one thing because talking about healing trauma, I mean, it provides it can be complex, but it can also be simple because really we're just talking about at the root, we're talking about wholeness. We're talking about power. And I think healing is a redistribution of your power.
Maybe I
Because if
needed
I,
more help because it wasn't simple for me. It became simple. I'm just being
yeah,
it became simple. But initially, I'm gonna tell you, I was so drained emotionally. I what took a 20-minute ride home after therapy, it literally felt like I had driven from Atlanta to Los Angeles.
so
I'm
let me
so
clarify.
dramatic.
It's simple, but not easy. And it may not be
Okay.
experienced as easy, but it's so freeing. It's
Yeah.
like if I'm
Yeah.
giving you the tools to get out of jail for free, are you going to tell me how hard it is make
Oh,
a, to make a damn tunnel? Like, is that what we talking about? Or you going to
I
take this and get free, sis? Like, that's
love it.
really what we're talking about because everything comes down to emotions. Like when we're talking about healing, because that's what we're talking about. Like even you said I was so drained because it's like processing and throwing out the trash and looking at certain things and looking at yourself and looking at the family dynamics. That
Mm-hmm.
can be a lot because it's like I'm really I'm getting more clear in reality, not the reality that I created to keep myself comfortable. That can
Yeah.
be a bit of a challenge, but it's
Yeah.
totally doable and
It
it's all the
is.
way worth it.
It is. So at least after you sign up or after you sign up and complete Sarita's mastermind, we may have you come on this show and let us know, how did it work for you? Everyone is a gatekeeper. Look, we're trying to heal lives one podcast at a time, right?
Ah, I know that's right.
And I'm serious. So, with that being said, would you like to leave us with any parting words? Give us
I
a
will say,
gem. Take us out with the gem.
when it comes to healing your trauma, I would say that one of the most important things, along with all the other important things, but one of the most important is being gentle with yourself
Yeah, yes,
and allow the
yes.
process to unfold. Allow really what's unfolding is you. So as you allow you
Ooh.
to unfold and you to blossom and you to take off the old decay and the old toxins and the things that were
Yes.
poisonous, because that's really what you're undoing, because you are already whole, you are already complete. But
Yeah.
being gentle with yourself as you go through the process of undressing, removing the releasing all the things that may have held you back from feeling free, from feeling worthy and
Mm,
lovable and compassionate. All of these things you already are. But in
yeah.
order to keep yourself safe, you block those things off from you allowing yourself to experience them. So be gentle. Be
Yeah.
gentle with the process, be gentle with yourself. Respect your own boundaries. If something is too hard in the moment for you to sit with or address, respect it. Don't push forward, don't push past it, because
Yes.
you're traumatized in the first place because someone didn't respect your boundaries. So you
That's it.
begin the healing with you respecting your own boundaries and honor yourself for wherever you are and knowing that it's okay, because you
Mm,
can always make another choice to go back, to revisit, to do whatever, but you have to have that self-respect, that self-kindness,
yes.
and that curiosity to move through the healing process.
I love it. I was going to have a parting word after you, but you know what? I'm going to do something a little different. You know, I'm always into something. Instead of me saying it, I'm going to let Elise say it. So I'm going to read her comment, and that will be our parting word for this podcast. And it's real simple and easy using your words. Elise LaShawn Marshall said, can I get a drum roll? She said, I am so ready.
That's beautiful.
God bless you, everyone. God bless you, Elise.
I love you, Elise. Send me a message. Mwah.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Black Girls Getting Their Shift Together. I will be back. Ooh, I will be back Monday. No, I will not. I will be back next Thursday. I got so many guests lined up. I will be back next Thursday. We have Christian Prophet on. She is also a therapist and she has a book. And you know how dramatic I am. I'm reading it because she's telling her life story. But that's all I say because I'm going to let Elise have that last word. Y'all tune in next
Love you,
Thursday and
Elise.
Friday.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Send me a message if you have questions.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sarita.
Bye.